Hey, tonight on the Old Time Mini Show, we'll be casting the most dangerous monster in the Star Frontiers role-playing game, and you know it, it's man. Hey, welcome back to another Thursday here on the Old Time Mini Show. If you're watching live or recorded later, welcome again. So as we've been working the last couple of weeks on working on these 1980s duplications of the Star Frontiers official miniatures for the Star Frontiers campaign that I'm actually currently running with my friends here in Brooklyn, New York. Previously, we have successfully duplicated all of the alien player character races, including the blob-like Dralicites, the monkey-like Yserians, the insect-like Vrusk last time. So we've finally come down to the last core player character, and that's humans. So the last couple of weeks we have been making molds here for both one of the man human and the woman human here. So tonight we're going to crack them open, see how well our mold making worked, and try to cast them in lead here on my kitchen stove again. So as you know, we try to keep things safe here. So I'll put the safety warning up front here. We are working with actual lead miniatures, both with the originals that I'm duplicating, as well as the ones that I'm casting here, making them out of what we call miniature metal. And in addition to that, the rubber that we use for the molds has some vapors, and the release agent does too. So trying to keep things safe, try to keep the space clean. Even though I'm working in the kitchen here, I avoid getting it anywhere near our food preparation items, and I also keep the windows cracked open and try to get ventilation coming through here pretty well. So if you've been watching since the start, I was doing that with the window wide open starting back in March, I believe, when it was winter cold here in New York. And so now it's kind of gotten summery hot. The last couple of days here have been up in the 80s, high 80s. We had a kind of violent thunderstorm come through here earlier today that cooled things down for about 10 minutes. So I'm currently sweltering, and we haven't put our AC in yet either. And even if we did, I think I'd still want to keep the windows open for ventilation for kind of the products that we're using here tonight. So I might complain a couple times about how incredibly hot and humid it currently is with my burner on all night. But that's what we're here for. So that's what we're queuing up for. Let's get started. I will turn on said burner here and start warming stuff up. Zoom in the camera a little bit. And what we learned last time with our two-part Vrusk, the insect model, was it's actually pretty efficient time-wise to have two molds going, so you can pour one, let that cool off, work on preparing or releasing the other one, and actually having the two is pretty time efficient. So I like having two here now. If you were here about 3 or 4 weeks ago for the episode where we're casting the Vrusk, that was the most epic, monumental casting we've had to date, with this really complicated insect figure that's got 8 legs going in a bunch of directions. And so I was working with a lot of good viewer help, actually. So we had a marathon session of about 4 hours where we were working on that mold over and over and over again, putting in a bunch of vent holes to get the air out, and finally actually did succeed at that very complicated miniature. So my goals for tonight are to not have a marathon session, to hopefully keep this around like 2 hours like is our normal intent. And what I would love to do, having built up our skills, is if I could get a clean cast the first pour. So I'm going to crack these open. I'm going to cut in some air vents that we think might be necessary. And if I can get like a clean cast on the first pour, that's kind of my goal going forward now. I don't think I've managed to do that completely in the past, but maybe on this side of the Vrusk quest, maybe we can do that. So that's what we're going to try to do tonight. So I'm going to heat up the stove here. I'm going to start heating up our model metal here that'll melt in a little bit. I think, again, the goal temperature is like around 300 degrees, if I recall correctly. And I will also start pre-warming the molds that we have learned helps that first pour, actually. So we'll crack them open, look for where we need to put the air vents, and we'll see how well we do there. Move the camera here a little bit. Okay. All right, so we do have a gas stove in our rental apartment here in Brooklyn, and if you look at the start of prior episodes, I've been lighting it up with matches, and just in the last week or two, I got an electric arc lighter, which maybe everybody else knows is a thing. This was actually news to me that this is a thing now, and we're actually really delighted with this product. So open it up, and then there's a little, you can see that there, little electric arc there that I'm using to light up my stove here. So it's advertised for candles or if you're a smoker or something like that. But it's just so elegant and it's kind of fun to use. So I am really happy to have discovered that little device. So we'll have this burner going the whole time that we're working here. Try to have it not too hot. The other thing that you may know is I'm getting kind of low on my prior supply of miniature metal. So I do have this extra ingot here that, hold it up over here. I do have this extra ingot here that, as I've said, doesn't fit in the ladle over there, and I have failed to find any resource nearby with a metal saw that I can cut through it. So if I get down on metal, I might just wind up dumping this in the ladle and hoping for the best. That might be possibly the least smart thing that I've done on this so far. The stove, it's a great question, William. The stove is very old. The stove is extremely old. And the pilot lights we've had to turn off the pilot lights because they're not reliable. And we're certainly, again, it's a rental place. We're certainly not in the cohort of people that are diehard gas stove people. And if our landlord wanted to replace us with an electric stove, we'd be like, yeah, great. But this is what we're leaving with. We have, at some point years ago, we did have to call the local gas company and go, our pilot light's going out all the time and we can smell gas and that's not great. And they're like, you gotta just have that not on. So this is what we do these days. All right, so opening up one of the molten, I'm not even sure whether this was the man or the woman at this point. I'm gonna find out right now. Actually, let me just remind viewers about exactly what is in these molds that we're trying to recreate here. So we have, this is a version of the guy, right, with kind of a big laser rifle that we've been working on the last couple weeks. And then the other one, there's the woman in one version of possibly painting here with a laser pistol. So this is what we have embedded in our molds at the moment, and we're trying to get clean duplications of it. So hopefully that's basically what we're going to see later tonight. Again, trying for a clean cast on the first pour, which is a rather significant challenge, frankly. Oh, really? I had a funny conversation with someone, I guess I'm not going to name them, wherein they were dealing with an old school thermostat for the first time. I was actually on a call with them, and they had never lived with anything other than a smart thermostat that's programmable and such and such. And on the other hand, I have actually never lived anywhere that had anything other than a traditional old school thermostat. And they were like, what are these two dials for? And I'm like, well, one's the actual temperature and one's the target temperature. And so we kind of had this funny, like you've never seen what in both directions. Like I knew that smart thermostats were a thing, but I've literally never lived in a place with one. Pretty much that. know, it's funny because it wasn't remotely what our interaction was like, but it reminded me of my I guess my second video game job was contentious. Was contentious. And so just one day among the various unnecessary arguments, one person was complaining it's too warm and one person's complaining it's too cold. And of course the problem was not all the offices got the same amount of heat, right? So one room was hotter than another. And they start having an argument about this, and someone says, like, do I have to tell you how a thermostat works? And the other person says, I know how a thermostat works, and complete aggravation. For some reason, that moment is stuck in my head for a long time. Okay, so let me pull this open here. It's pretty well glued together there. So usually I have to just find some place where it starts pulling apart. There we go. There we go. Okay, so there is our girl space person.
Putting the peanut butter back.
That's good. That's good.
I'm gonna brush my teeth. You should brush your teeth every night.
Drive by advice, everybody. I mean, it checks out. It's just, that gets the Wandering DM seal of approval. So there's our actual woman space adventure miniature there. That's the original. Right out of our mold there. So I'll put that on the side. All right, so I'm gonna investigate the mold here and see where I think I might need to open it up a bit more. So the pore hole looks too tight. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the pore hole a little bit there, and I don't know. I guess I'll make a little bit of a vent off the pistol. That's usually the place that has the biggest trouble. So I'm just gonna open up the pore hole a little bit. Let's see if I can ventilate the laser pistol. On that kind of technology front, and again, score one for the electric lighter, but growing up in Maine and Massachusetts, of course, we had cars, and I grew up with farm machinery, and I was driving tractors on the road before I even had a license. So I always had cars, and we had to drive for everything. When I moved to Brooklyn, I got rid of my car, and I do basically depend on mass transit here, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But on the rare occasions when I get in somebody else's car, they are rapidly changing the last couple of years. And I'm rapidly getting to a point whereby if I hypothetically ever own a car again in the future, I have very little idea how they work. And the other day I was in somebody's, I guess I got in a lift actually, and for the first time I saw a digital rear view mirror, where the rear view mirror wasn't actually a mirror at all. It was a monitor to a camera out the back of the car. And if I need to use a non-key ignition, I'm going to be confused. And any kind of like simple troubleshooting that I grew up doing is, I assume, not going to work anymore. So I'm going to look like a real idiot the next time I need to maintain a car. All right, so we're just right here. That laser pistol is real narrow. I guess this is the deeper side right here, so I'm going to dig into that just a bit. course, we had a conversation last episode about is it better to put in the air vents when you're making the mold or afterwards, and I think we came out like 2 to 1 to doing it afterwards is a little bit easier. Is that maybe enough? I'm going to be a little conservative instead of completely defiguring the mold. I'm going to go this way, but again, I'd like to get a clean mold. But if I don't, I'd rather have something I can recover from. It's real small. Okay, so as usual, if you've seen this before, put a little talcum powder on either side of the mold. Make the metal roll down easier. Clap it over the sink. All right, put that together with our rubber bands, and I'm not going to pour it immediately tonight. I'm going to stick it over by the burner and get the mold to warm up a little bit. And see if that doesn't help. Like so. Totally asymmetric, which bothers me. Okay, so just put that one over by the burner and open up the other one. So the metal, the metal in the ladle is, it's melted, but it's not, it's looking kind of dirty, which I'm not super fond of. I don't know. I'll think about that later. All right, so let's open up the guy miniature, and actually that seems really hot. All right, let's open up the guy miniature, let's see what that looks like. This. All right, so when we're making the first part of the molds, I always need someone to remind me to make the registers, and tonight I might possibly need someone to remind me to hydrate. Crack this guy open. That's a pretty nice square. I guess except for the ends. I kind of this actually, it just feels nice in my fingers that I got it so square here. So there's a crack right there. Alrighty. And she's popping out a little bit. That's not a bad sign. That's fine. It's just me bending the mold a little bit as I open it up, which is perfectly fine. So there is the original of our 1983 Star Frontiers human guy not in a spacesuit miniature with gargantuan big gun. And obviously the part that might be a little tricky to get the metal into is that long pointy gun. So that's the part that I definitely want to put an air vent in there, trying to get full coverage. I think I tried to tilt him just a little bit this way, but still. All right, so there's our goal. All right, so how's the pore hole look? Again, a little tight as usual. The outskirts, no matter what you do, get a little. The edges get kind of joined together. So I want to open that up, and the laser rifle itself. Okay, so it's deeper on this side. So I'm going to put a little air vent in there. I think the rest probably is fine. This up a little bit. Now, the problem with this miniature is that he has a really nice full head of hair. And I think no matter what I'm going to do, the pour spot is going to slightly disrupt his hair, which is not great, but what are you going to do? You know, the other ones, like the aliens, tend to have smooth heads. The woman here has a hood on her cloak that I can just file down smooth if I need to. But so there's the pour hole, which looks better. You probably can't see that, but there's clearly a better hole there. And the air vent for the laser rifle. So I think I pretty much have to do it right on the end, the far tip there. So I'm trying to cut in something useful right here. And in a prior age, I would have been worried, more worried about cutting into it like this. But it's very, very rare that you accidentally get a lot of metal going into a cut like that. And I can just take it off. It'd be a little bit of flashing. Worst case scenario. I'd be a little more aggressive with that. All right, I feel like. That's my guess. That's my best guess. That's probably about how much air is going to be in there. Right. You notice remember we did tilt it a little bit down that way, trying to get the metal to flow in that direction. So, So there's my guess, right? If I could get either one of these to cast well in the first pour, I'd be delighted. I am a little worried about the remnants of my metal being kind of dirty. That's not a great sign. So as usual, I'm trying to be a little punky with my materials, and sometimes that's not the right choice. Okay, so assemble that. All right, so we will put that over by the burner to warm up a little bit. And this one here is pretty toasty. Yeah, warm, not toasty, I guess, but we'll put this over here. And I think we're about ready for our first pour. So the metal's clearly all melted. So we'll see how well it does. It's not the cleanest stuff, but I'm just gonna pour it in the one. I'm gonna pour it here to get started. We'll let that cool, and then I'll let this warm up for a little bit before I pour it in there. So we'll just try the first pour here. See if I can guess how well it's doing. You know, I don't like the looks of that pour hole actually. So I'm gonna take this. I'm just comparing the two of them next to each other. This pour hole on the woman miniature is really small. So you know what? I'm gonna open that up a little more. If you were anticipating the pour right there and I aborted it, I apologize. 2 parts. All right, so let's try that. So let's try the warmed up woman miniature there. And usually based on how smooth it goes down the pore hole, we can usually guess how well the cast went actually. So let's try this. All right, pour number 1. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That didn't feel. That almost feels like it got stuck somewhere. That didn't feel like enough metal going down. So, what are you gonna do? So let me. All right, we were jostling it last time, right? So I was right. I forgot to do the tap. I remember all my little tricks here. Yeah. So when we were fighting with the rust last time, we poured it and kind of tapped it around quickly. I guess I got to remember to do that. So we'll let that cool a little bit while the other one warms up. So while we're waiting for that to cool down a bit, I will point out, so we did have one of our bi-weekly sessions of our Star Frontiers gaming group at the moment last Friday. And so I think it was last week tonight where I was saying that having prepared that out-of-the-box Volturnus campaign that's in the first adventure there is included in the box set of Star Frontiers in 1982. So I started preparing that 3-adventure set, and I realized, oh yeah, it's recurring to me that it is fairly railroady. And that's kind of the era that those things might be, that we're trying to make a narrative book type recreation, movie recreation. But it is kind of railroady, so I did redesign largely the whole thing to allow more flexibility and allow the players to go in different directions. And so I will say in the first session that actually occurs on the alien Volturnus planet where you wind up crash landing, is that so far we are largely doing the original plot line so far. And they did make contact with one of the alien races in the desert, and they narrowly escaped dying of thirst, having run out of water. I will say that they came up with a slightly clever twist on something, is that really close to where you crash, there's a well with water, okay, and then twist, it turns out that it's poisonous, it's arsenic. So at that point, they depleted a little bit of their water, and they asked, so do our medical personnel have drugs to counteract toxicity? And I looked it up in the rules. I wasn't making this up. Like, yeah, you totally do have some doses. So they actually said, great, we're going to intentionally take this arsenic tainted water, and they were smart enough to test it with the devices that they have, and intentionally take it with them, mark it so they don't get confused. And now they've got a couple different options. Is one, if they get in a real emergency situation, they can drink the poison water and immediately take an injection to counteract the poison. Or if they're in some kind of negotiation session with a hostile power, they can offer them the poison water as some kind of dastardly get one over on people. So that was, again, I have good players here, and that was a good way of turning something, an adverse discovery, into an advantage. And that was a really cool point, I thought, last Friday. Tanner Kess, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for checking in. You're right. The initial hydration did occur at 8:30. Right. Yes. Thanks. This is great. I totally needed that. This is great. I'm being reminded about the hydration. I'm being reminded that I got to brush my teeth. This is so helpful. Who needs AI schedulers? Aces. That was a good time for that too. All right. So is this? As you've seen, I can be pretty aggressive about opening this up when the metal's still hot, but maybe sit next to the burner for a while. Maybe I can open this up now. You know what I should do is I should pour the other one. Is what I should. I'm going to pour this one, and then while that's cooling, I should work on the woman. Okay, so let's pour this and see how well we do. Yeah, they didn't feel like enough metal going down there. I don't think I got my first pour success. But we'll see. That's why you do the experiment. All right, so let me open up this, and we'll see how well we did with our woman adventure. Okay, well, you know what? All right, so not terrible. I got most of it. The base at the feet didn't completely come in, and of course the laser pistol, that was the part we were worried about, where I made the air vent. That didn't come in at all. That hand, and actually her left hand didn't come in either. So all three extremities didn't quite come in. I feel like I do feel that the molds sometimes need to be seasoned. It's like if I do literally nothing, the second pour comes in better. And here we are trying to warm it up, but I don't think that's a silver bullet. So I don't know if I should adjust it or not. It not coming in the base, that is surprising. That's like the first time we've seen that here in the stream. I guess the ankles are pretty narrow. Getting pretty good detail for the parts that did come out. Trying to see if there's any places. Okay, now this arm here has a little glitch. I'm going to free that up, I think. That might help a little bit. You know, I'm just going to call that one data point. I'm going to okay, so I'm going to cut more of an air vent in the other side of the pistol, actually. So this is kind of a deep spot here. I'm trying to make real sure that I'm not just dealing with gas getting stuck here. Okay. The base is real weird. I feel like the legs are bent in a way that's slightly troubling. So you see, if I take the original right? That left knee, right, which is right on screen right now. The way the left knee is bent in an interesting way, right? Makes that a little tricky because it kind of digs into one part of the mold and then back into the other one. And the other one ought to be fine. Seems like a right leg ought to be fine, but a little bit of a narrow ankle there, I guess. Interesting. But like I say, sometimes you do absolutely nothing and the second pour is better. All right, so I'm just going to switch molds here. I'm going to pour in this one and then start working on this other one here. Maybe that'll be better. Good point. When if I pull it out next time, I'll give a little bit of a closer look there. Oh, the miscast, right? Okay. So good point. So there is. Right, so there's the one that came out. Yeah, I did not pull that up, did I? So neither of the arms came out, and the base didn't come out either. So maybe it just wasn't. You know, the other thing that helped last time was warming up the metal a little bit more, right? Maybe I'll turn the burner up a little bit, actually. Maybe the metal itself is not hot enough. I mean, the legs themselves came out all the way, but I didn't get enough metal pouring into the base to fill it in. So now I'm confronting my old metal issue. Is I clearly have crappy junky metal on the top of the ladle, and I have clean metal underneath that usually kind of scoops out from underneath it when I pour it, but I've depleted it so it's very little. Yeah, I might have to put that other ingot in there. Interesting. Well, I'm gonna try this once. Let me closing up at the waist. The air can't escape from the base area. That's interesting. Yeah, this would be the first time. I'll say that I don't normally have trouble with like a big chunky base. This is the first time I've ever had trouble with that. Might be a point. I might need to put an air vent in there. Not something I've dealt with before. Let me try this. Yeah, I bet same thing there. Okay, now all I have left is this shitty cake of metal. That is not going to do anybody any good at all. All right, so this is the first time I've ever dealt with this issue, actually. Okay, where should I plop that cake of metal? I guess I just plop it on this marble slate that I've got. That's probably the best thing. I'm just going to throw this out. Okay, well, here goes nothing. So again, if I could have found some way to cut this ingot here, I would have. So I don't know what's going to happen here. This ingot is clearly too big for the ladle. I don't know what's going to happen here. This is completely novel. I have no idea what's going to happen. Do I have like tongs that I can use? I just opened by saying I don't want to use. I'm not going to use food products. Okay, so I'm gonna get some chopsticks. This is how I sometimes manipulate this. I'll be right back. Always something new. Right. So I don't have any choice here. So here goes. I'm just going to drop the big ingot in the ladle, and if something comes, so something comes. I don't know how bad this is going to be. There's absolutely no way this fits. Okay. We're just gonna let's watch together and see what happens. Okay, so for what it's worth, while we're watching that, here is the gunky crap. So you can see that I had just a little bit. I had a little bit of clean metal right left. Probably not enough for miniature, and I had this big cakey part that's obviously all garbage. It wouldn't do anything even when heated up. Little, it's a little warm right now, right? So this what was molten metal just a couple minutes ago, right? I can handle it. It is pretty warm. I wouldn't recommend someone pick it up right now, but that was what I was left with. So I need to start using some clean metal here. That has been a long time coming, honestly. This dirty chunk. If you've been following my blog when I was making spaceships out of this is continuous with those from over 10 years ago. So this right here is the first time I've had to. I don't even remember when I started my first ingot of metal. Frankly, it was so far back. But here we are. Tonight was the night. I bet not. I certainly don't know any way of cleaning it. I think sometimes I've had a little cruddy chunk, and I scoop it off the top, and I just have to throw it away because it doesn't cast well anymore. So if anybody knew anyway, I bet probably not. Once it gets junky, I feel that's just like a general physics entropy situation, I'm guessing. So maybe what'll happen here is I can, right, maybe I can get the part in the ladle to melt, and then the part that's hanging off the end will just like fall off. And if I need to, I can take my tray off the burner and get that out of the way. Maybe that's probably the best case scenario. I don't know how long that's going to take. Interesting suggestion, William. All right, so going into completely uncharted territory, and I really thought tonight would be easier, right? Having come off the Rust community shows, like everything else from now is going to be very easy. And now I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with the giant ingot. So should I work on one of the other casts and put the camera on that, or should I leave the camera on the big ingot while it melts? And while we think about that, I'm going to rehydrate. Again, usually in my experience, the stuff doesn't melt piecemeal. It warms up, and the whole chunk that you're dealing with just turns into liquid all at once, practically. So this whole thing could just turn fluid altogether and just splash. Or maybe for the first time, the far end is going to drop off like an icicle. I don't know. I was really thinking I was going to get through one more episode with the existing metal, but that did not happen. Oh, it's so hot here. Okay, now that's reasonably room temperature-ish. I did I don't know if you've seen this experiment of like you can demonstrate the speed of light with your microwave by putting in like a Hershey's chocolate bar. You take out any kind of spinning implement, you put in a Hershey's chocolate bar, microwave it for a little bit. I can't remember how long, not very long. And you'll have ridges that mark the wavelength of the microwave coming through it. And if you take a ruler, and it'll be like a couple inches or something, if you measure the distance between the hotter spots, the spots that melted more visibly, and then multiply by the frequency that's marked on the microwave, it actually comes out to be the speed of light. Does that sound? Let me just look here. Yeah, output frequency, right? Our microwave right here has an output frequency of 2450 megahertz, right? 2450 times a million cycles per second. And I did that, and this was, I don't know, like a year or two ago. I did that, and then like within the week, the microwave broke down. And I'm not sure, in retrospect, whether it was because of that or not, or whether there was just like maybe like a sensor in the door went coincidentally, and I've never tried it again just in case I'd screwed it up. But I thought it would. Now, part of so it's an interesting experiment, and I was happy to do it. The only problem is, of course, the whole thing is predicated on you trusting that the frequency measurement that's marked on the microwave is itself actually correct, which is not my favorite part of a scientific experiment, to just like take that for granted. But for something as pretty far out there as the speed of light, that's pretty amazing. You can do anything at all in your kitchen for that. Maybe I should get that going at the same time as I could be melting lead ingots and testing the speed of light in the microwave directly overhead. I mean, I feel like I should do double duty. This waiting around part isn't my favorite thing right here. I should use this time for something else. So I'm going to keep the camera here, and just slightly off camera, I'm going to open up the mold that we had, and then I'll show you what the result was. Take this away. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to bring the guy up on screen. So here's the guy, and again, didn't come out completely, but came out better, right? So once again, this actually came out perfectly fine, with the exception of the big, huge, long gun. So do I need to deepen the air vent? Let's keep an eye on that thing. I thought that was a fairly deep air vent at the end there. Maybe I should just deepen that, I guess. Poke the ingot. if we're absolute worst case scenario, I mean, you could just say that's how long the gun is. Actually, that's a legitimate gun length, frankly. You could totally use that. But I do want to try to get the whole thing pretty close. Holy ingot. That seems pretty hard, actually. I'm gonna turn the heat up a little bit, which is like the last thing I want to do here tonight. Just turn it up a little bit. It is, well, you know what? That's not entirely interesting. It's almost just a tiny bit gummy on the bottom. Anyway, sawed-off laser. I hid it in my pants. Open this up a little bit more. Yeah. So anyway, so it has been like 80 degrees in our apartment today, which is way too hot. As someone from New England, it's like we're way too hot, and we're very unhappy here. Off screen, I'm opening up the air vent on that laser rifle a little bit more. And you know what? I'm even going to vent it out the side of the mold, like we did with the Vrust, just to make absolutely sure it's free. Hopefully I don't get metal cascading out the side of my mold, as I almost stabbed myself with the X-Acto knife. But it's pretty unlikely because it's going uphill to the side, so I think I'm pretty safe on that score. Maybe the ingot will get soft and I can like pulp part of it down, maybe. Okay, so here comes the mold. Here comes the modified. So you see, I've got this air vent going all the way to the outside. Hopefully, maybe that'll help. Yeah, maybe. I feel like that was real close. Point there. You know what? You're right. Well, you know what? It's at least on the the ladle is smaller than the burner unit. So I do have it. I think I have the center of the ladle over the circumference of the burner unit, actually, so it might not get any. Oh shit! Oh no. Okay, so here's what I'm shitting about. The handle of the ladle itself is melting. Crap. You know what? I remember this has happened in the past. In the distant past, this has happened. So actually, I can't lift it right at the moment because the damn thing is melted off. Okay, so maybe if I just. Okay, so maybe I can get the handle to cool down. No, that's not good. So I accidentally had the plastic part of the handle resting on the metal, so I've accidentally melted that. Okay, so maybe that'll cool off. Maybe, please. Ah, God. Okay, so. All right, so the ingot's starting to melt. Can you see that? Screen lower left. So it is starting to melt a little bit on the underside. All right, it is possible this is possibly going to fail on us tonight. So if the ladle itself fails, because of my screw up there, I might be out of luck. If the handle's failing while I've got too much metal going into the ladle, it might be too heavy for me to lift up, maybe? I don't know. Is there any, I mean, I could use pliers. I mean, I could grab onto them to the... Okay, so as an emergency fallback, I'm gonna possibly grab the ladle with these pliers and try to use it that way. That's just asking for all kinds of trouble. Making its first appearance tonight, pliers. Okay, so that is clearly, it's clearly melting on the bottom side. All right, so the whole thing isn't collapsing entirely at once. Yeah, that's all still hard. All right, now, okay, so maybe, I mean, could I grab the ingot itself with the pliers? Once I have enough melted? Yeah. Okay, well, right. Great minds think alike. Great. I said that out loud before I read it. You came to it before I did. But even if I melted them, the handle's gone. Oh crap. Okay, that's, you see, that's filling up rather rapidly now. Okay, so. Okay, all right, okay. Well, if the hand, okay, that worked. It's funny. I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I didn't think about the pliers. If I'd thought about that in advance, that would have helped. But the handle's gone now. Now what am I gonna do? Oh shit. I'm trying to adjust the heat here because I had it up way high to try to get the heat to melt. Okay, so that was sort of worked. Okay, what I really don't want is what I really don't want is to try to do a pour, turn it to the side, and have the thing fall out and just have metal splash everywhere. That's not great. Thanks. Okay, so I feel if I turned the heat off and we just went away for a couple hours, I think that the handle would probably solidify again, because if I remember the distant past, I've had the same kind of thing happen, I think. So maybe what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to do a pour here with our now clean metal. We like that. But I'm going to give myself some extra support with the pliers. This is getting completely ridiculous. All right, let's just try this. I mean, what's the melting temperature of pliers? The ladle handle was touching the pan. I mean, so the metal part is, yes, definitely. In fact, I already had to, in the distant past, I had to bend it just to get it up off the pan. And then in addition tonight, I had the plastic part touching the metal, which is where we went awry. But yeah, it is. I mean, maybe if we cooled everything down, maybe I could adjust it more than I have in the past. I'm going to try to do a pour here. I'm going to give myself some extra support with this. Okay, I guess I'm using mostly the pliers now. Oh, god damn it. Okay. This is... Right. exciting. I got some of it in the hole. And a whole lot not. All right, so that's okay. That's a thing. That's a legitimate thing. That happened. You know, right this second, the handle is not touching the pan. I guess that's how we're going to do that tonight. Okay. This junky stuff off here. Okay. It's a thing. All right. I've got clean metal, so it's sort of your yin yang. Part gets better, part gets worse. Okay, so I'm gonna pull back over here. William, thanks. Yeah, thank you so much for the good advice. Thanks for checking in. Talk later. I'm going to start working on the other mold here. See how well this came out. And so the other half of the ingot there is cooling. This is something where I do this so rarely. I need to make a note to this is where I need to make a note someplace about how to deal with the big ingot. Pliers. I can't remember who I'm dealing with here at this point. Poopy. All right, so, okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, so unexpectedly with the air vent, I did get the whole extended laser pistol, and then I didn't get her left arm, and I didn't get the base, which is exactly the opposite of anything I would have expected. Crazy. You get a little bit of flashing from where you've got aggressive with the air vent here. So maybe the answer is just put air vents everywhere. I guess everything that didn't come out, I guess I start cutting air vents in, I guess. Yeah. That's absolutely the last thing I would have bet on like that. But that's good, because what I thought was the hardest part is working. Is that remotely in focus? Okay, now it's in focus. All right, so, okay, well, that's good. Okay, so I guess the lesson is always be more aggressive with the air vent. So I guess I'm going to add it to this arm here and the base, and we'll see where we go from there. Where is that arm? Oh, you know what? Oh, you know, I think, okay, so I think in the other hand, I think I have a bubble. Can you see that? I think there's a bubble right there that actually has wiped out her left hand, I think. So I think I gotta remove that. If I'm not mistaken. I don't know, is that, okay, let me look at the original. Or is that just the way her hand is? No, wait, I take it back. No, that's not right. No, I take it back. Okay. So here's the original, and that hand is curled around and like has a little gap in it, right? Where her fingers are curled around a little empty space. That is so. Okay, I think you can see it right there. You can see you can see through the gap in her hand right there. So, okay, so it's not a bubble, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I need to just remove it anyway? Because the hand is just too delicate for me to cast. That's an interesting detail. Kind of looking at the detail of my casts. All right, so let's try. Okay, let's try air venting that hand, I guess. See if that helps. test that. All right, that's ridiculously aggressive. Okay, let's try that. Ultimately, this always comes down to like throw more air vents and winds up being just, it surprises me every time, but that's like the story every time. Okay, let's throw some metal down here with our slightly makeshift operation now. Actually, I think the handle is a little bit more solid now. Not that I would trust it, but somehow I don't understand how I'm completely missing my first shot with it. But not too bad. Not too bad. Reasonable. All right, let's open up this one. So this was the first one that we poured with a new metal, right? This is the guy with the new metal. We were vaguely getting in the right place. Ooh, that. Okay, I just happened to brush up against the ingot that's cooling over on the side, and it's still really hot. That right there is, so it's a big chunk, and obviously it's holding on to the heat a lot more than I'm used to with the little miniatures. That is super hot still. Note to self. I wonder how long that's going to take to cool off. I think I just hit my foot with a piece of metal. I don't know what it was, and I don't know where it went. Okay. All right, anyway, let's open this up. Haha, look at that. This show should just be renamed to like the Make Air Vents show. Dan's old time making air vents show. Because that's just always the story. And I never think it will be, but that's it. So, okay, so that was I think that was just our second pour. It was with the clean metal, which I do think helps. And we did manage to get the whole miniature, including the gun, and a little bit of flashing. I actually did run metal all the way up into what the air vent was, surprisingly. Again, that might be things are warmer. It might be that's the cleaner metal might help, right? It's still a little warm. Oh, jeez, look at that. Yeah. Neat. We can clean that up, no problem. That came out great. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so this piece, obviously, just throw that right back in the ladle. I might as well take the pour hole bit off. I think I can do that pretty cleanly with my fingers. Yeah. Even actually, his hair doesn't look too bad. I guess there's a little blob there. Cool. That back in. Cool. Okay, so there's one. So normally, right, I do 3. So normally I try to duplicate 3 of each, and then I paint them, you know, kind of primary colors, red, green, blue. I do have one player in my campaign who actually is playing a human, so I haven't had a good miniature for him in the past. So I would like, probably next week when we come back, I'll be painting them, and then I'll have them available for our next session. Okay, so it's into the side. Okay, so that mold is clearly working. Talcum powder. That's a good sign. You'd think that that big super long laser rifle would be like, I thought that would be the hardest thing that we have on the table tonight. But surprisingly, it's turning out to be narrow ankles. Just air vent everything. Everything! All right, let me pour more in there. Okay, why is it? Oh, look at that. Okay, well, all right. Okay, that part, I started strong and then I spilled it at the end. I'm going to throw some stuff back in the mix. So, is that hot? It's okay. Let me go back. I'm going to throw the bad cats back in the pot. Recycle that metal. Right. So while that is. Which one is which? Okay, that was the one I just poured. Let's open this up. So, oh geez, metal pouring everywhere. Now again, I want to be careful with these shards because they can potentially come out. I have a little drippy part and that kind of stuff can come out like atomically sharp. So I do try to be careful with that kind of stuff. There's a piece right there that I'm not happy about. Okay, I'll just live with that, I guess. So disappointing. Okay, so okay, this time I got the base, right? So that's super aggressive air vent on the base. That worked. I lost the laser pistol in the right arm that I got, and actually the left. So this is like the inverse of the last one. Is I think I got the left hand here. That's actually looking a lot better. The base is all completely filled in, and I lost the laser pistol. Dang it. And I've already air vented that twice. Just slightly stumped there. So of course I do have this giant piece of flashing there on the base now, but I might have gone a little bit overboard with that. I'm not quite getting the copyright stamp on the bottom. So I think my mold maybe shifted just a little bit. Anyway, that's not important. Is that hand? No, the left hand isn't completely there. What can I do about that? I got that way too close. Look at that left hand. That left hand detail is not quite great. What am I? Apparently, I'm accidentally making little ball bearings. I'm dropping them on my feet. There's one. exactly what bit of the mold is doing that, but I've got right down there. All right, so I opened up both of those bits a little bit more. I went psycho on that base piece. I think I was so aghast at the base not coming in that I went crazy on it. I think I have to hydrate. Give me a second here. Okay, let me do another pour over here. This piece. Okay, can I get it neatly? Can I get it neatly all in the hole without dribbling all over it? Almost. Now I will say, so it is nice working with clean metal. You see how completely like clean and shiny that is, and it does pour a little bit more smoothly. I really do like working with a fresh metal chunk. It's really neat. So I do like that. Put this bad cast in there. I don't want those sharp bits pointing at me. Alright, so I just dump some stuff in there to melt. I'm just gonna watch that a little bit. I do kind of like watching that. Okay, so back to our mold. So this is the guy mold, and we got one good cast out of this. So this is our third attempt. And again, you know, just because it works once, sometimes it screws up the next time. I've seen that before. Looking for that big laser rifle to be complete, and it is. Super. That's working so well. Right, big giant air vent on the end. That's what it took. Honestly, surprised that I'm getting metal. Oh, that's look at how far the metal's going up there. That seems like really surprising to me. It almost physically doesn't make sense, but there it is. You know, so you can't, like, if that was intentional, it is possible to get metal going like up and over and back around. I have done that before, so I guess that's an example. You know, we're working with the mold initially with cruddy metal, and now that we have clean metal, it's going to flow a little bit better. I do believe. Oof, that's pretty warm. All right, I need that to cool off a little bit. I gotta admit, this is largely the opposite of how I expected this to go. I thought the big laser rifle was going to be the big pain in the butt. The next time we do this, it'll be interesting if the handle recovered, if the ladle handle recovered. I'm guessing that it probably will. I think. I almost feel I could almost pour with it right now, but. The other thing is that unfortunately that's a little awkward here, and I am coming really close to getting my fingers on the hot pan, which obviously I want to avoid. That's my biggest concern, that I don't, because I'm handling handle, ladle, wrench, pliers, right, and I'm worried that I'm gonna, like, the thing I'm gonna forget about is hands on the burner. But so far so good. You can probably get better equipment, right? You could better get a bigger ladle. Would be smart. Right? I'm trying to do things on the cheap. So there are ways that if you wanted to do this yourself, you could be safer and smarter than I'm being. All right. Still trying to get our woman space adventure fully cast. Oh, that might have been it. I think that did it. So I got the whole laser pistol, I got the whole base, I got the whole hand here, and again I have metal pouring into my rather extensive air vents. Maybe if we'd started with the clean metal, I wouldn't have gone the direction of cutting those so big. Ooh, that's very hot. Is this metal holding the heat better? So I'm going to have to clean, oh geez, damn. So I'm going to have to clean that up a little bit, right? Obvious. That's insane. Look at this. Look at how far that metal poured up out of the air vent in the laser pistol. That's crazy. That's ludicrous. Think about what it took for that to happen. Man, physics is crazy. But anyway, so I got the whole. So I'll have to clean up those pieces every time I make this. But I got the whole miniature, including that little very delicate left hand, and the entirety of that laser pistol. Yeah. Isn't that nuts? That is truly insane. Crazy. I'm probably going to use this for the thumbnail. That just looks so ludicrous. Awesome. Okay. Well, anyway, so we got one. So that's working. That's good. So I got to put that over here to cool, because boy, for some reason that's holding the heat. Maybe I've got the metal hotter than I normally do. I don't know. Okay. So I will crack open the other one. Hopefully this is our third guy coming up. Solving problems. Okay, let me do a pour over there. Okay, don't get cocky. You've been successful, but don't get cocky with this. Here. So hopefully we have a good third guy. Man, that is hot. Great. Look at that. Okay, so this is working pretty dependably. And you notice, so the metal here is going further up every time I do this too. Isn't that crazy? Thank you. Yeah. Tweezers. That's ludicrous. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, obviously it is still under the mass of the metal in the pore hole, right? So you have that mass pushing down on everything else, but still, that seems really crazy. I almost want it like I have half of mine to like keep some of that around and say that it's a flamethrower, because it kind of reminds me of the flamethrowers in Aliens, slightly. Trying to make use of everything. Okay, so put him over here. All right, so I'm gonna that mold right there. I'm gonna put away. I do have 3 good Guy casts. Holy smoke, is that mold hot? Jeez, Louise. I think I might burn her up more than I normally do. Do I even need it this hot? A little bit of a yin yang there. Is that I do think having the metal hotter seems to be helping us, but I suppose it's a little bit of a safety issue when you do that. Okay, so pull the girl mold over here. We've got one of these that worked. Do I have 2? Yeah, great. Okay, I think we got it. The answer is always more air vents and a little bit cleaner metal. Cleaner, hotter metal, but primarily more air vents, which also means more flashing. Now this time it didn't go anywhere near as high, right? Off that laser pistol. But we'll get what we wanted. Oh, is that what I'm doing? I'm demolding faster? I'm losing track. Thank you for saying that. I wasn't even aware. Yeah. This is great. I'm glad. Thank you for saying that. I with 2 and thinking about I'm not even tracking that anymore. Yeah, I guess in the past I was like, oh, I got to let it cool. I'm not even paying attention to that at all tonight. I'm just like grabbing the next thing that's available. I totally need an overseer. This is making me think of a story. Okay, so now that I've only got 1 going, now I do actually have to let it cool. I totally grabbed it, didn't I? Pour carefully. Well, that looked nice. Like a nice clean pour. Pull it a little away from the burner. So supposedly, okay, so I'm growing up in Maine, and we're in an era where we had mechanical farm equipment, right, tractors, but we also, the prior generation had done a lot of work, like my grandfather's generation had done a lot of work with pulling horses. And my dad had, like we would raise steers, my dad had trained oxen, and so at this point we kept a team of oxen, partly for recreation, but also if the fields got muddy in the summer and we're doing work and a tractor gets stuck in the mud, the backup solution was go get the ox team, hook them up to the tractor, and haul the tractor out of the mud with the ox team. And we still had field equipment that had originally been horse-drawn and had been converted for use with our tractors and stuff like that. So we were still in a place where we were still using animals quite a bit for some amount of work, particularly in the winter. So we had a wood lot that was some miles away, and my grandfather's generation had run a lumber operation in Maine back in the 30s, 20s, 30s type thing. And I guess 30s, 40s, I guess. And so in the winter, we would go and we'd get wood by hooking up the ox team taking a sledge over the snow into the woodlot, cutting down some trees, maybe with a chainsaw, and then dragging the whole thing back with the ox team. And even as a young kid, I would go with my dad to help out on that, which was not bad. It was actually not the worst way to grow up. So anyway, slightly before my time, I guess, my dad had gone with his dad to go pull some wood out. And so they go in with the sledge, with the ox team, with Dad's ox team, and Dad starts to, I believe, starts to chop down a tree to take it. And of course, you've got the ox and the sledge parked, a little distance away. And my grandfather, again, who'd spent his whole life like this, just goes, "Huh." Just that's it, right? And my dad takes that as a signal of displeasure. And he goes, "Well, what's your problem now?" And my grandfather says, "Yeah, well, the way you're cutting that tree down, it's going to land right on your ox team." And my dad is, that's ridiculous. I know what I'm doing. This tree is not going to land on my ox team. And my grandfather's like, "Well, all right, your choice." And Dad thinks about it and it's like, well, he does have decades more experience than I do, so even though this doesn't make any sense to me right this second, I actually am going to move the ox team and then finish cutting down the tree, and sure enough, the tree comes down not the direction that my dad expected, right exactly where the oxen were standing minutes before. So anyway, so the moral of the story is it helps to have someone watching over your shoulder. About that a lot. All right, so hopefully this is cool. Pull this over here. So if we can get a good third cast for our woman space adventurer, this is what we're looking for tonight. I'll have to clean all this stuff up later, but I feel like this is probably good. Yeah, great. It's the air vent, stupid. Ooh, warm. Very warm still. But that is what we wanted. Sorry, if I put my arm on the other side of the camera, maybe that helps. Nice. A lot of detail there. Yeah, if I'd been better planning, maybe I would have used the new ingot sooner, had cleaner metal, had better pores, and I would probably need less air venting and less flashing that I need to clean up now. But anyway, it works. It is what it is. I got 3. Let me before I close up shop. Actually, let me pull off. Damn, that hole is hot. Holy moly, that is toasty. Let me pull off the pore holes of all these miniatures and then put it back in the ladle. Now, here's a question. So here's basically everything that we have made tonight. Including the half ingot that we used, and I'm curious about whether I can even handle this right now. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, so there's our ladle that I've been worried about for literally years. Interesting. It kind of got smushed, but I don't know how long that's been, like probably an hour now. But now it's cool enough I can handle it. I don't have the edge isn't too sharp. So we did manage to actually melt part of it, grab it with the pliers. That actually worked. Okay, I've been worried about that. I've been worried about how I was going to do that for a ridiculous amount of time. Most of this century, probably. Yeah, that little delicate left hand did actually come out. right? And it was the air venting that allowed the metal to flow all the way in there. You know. Right, I even have this gap between the her left elbow and the power pack on her back. Right, that came out. Yeah, that was nice. Okay, so let me do that last. But I'm just going to pull the pour holes off, put that back in the ladle, just so it's ready for next time. As long as I have it hot, I might as well use this to melt that stuff back down. Okay, don't rip her head off. You know, I suppose I can just snap off some of the flashing as long as I'm here. I'm still stunned by this. But I'm just going to snap most of it off with my fingers. Be a little bit easier to deal with later on. Can I get this chunk off the base? Yeah. Good enough. You know, I'm gonna get a utility tool. I'll be right back. This is the thing I usually use to get little bits off the miniatures. Get off there. I'm really glad I figured out how to use that friggin' ingot so I can keep making some more miniatures. So obviously, I think when we come back next week, get these little ball bearings out here. When we come back next week, I think the plan will be to paint these guys. I guess I already said that. Have them ready for the next session in a couple of weeks. And then after that, I feel there's one really obvious thing we should duplicate that we haven't yet, and that would be to duplicate the bad guy Sathar miniatures. And they haven't showed up in my game yet, but I do really like the miniature in the first set, so I think it'll be impressive, and they're bigger than you'd expect. So I think it'd be impressive to have them available to put out on the tables at some point when the bad guys, when the big bad guys finally show up. There's some stuff on the bottom here. All right. Make sure the bases aren't straight yet. Okay. I'll lose these guys a little bit against the marble I've got it on, but that's what we've accomplished tonight. So 3 guys and 3 women, like we were expecting. And once again, it always surprises me, but the answer is mostly add more reverence everywhere. So that's coming out pretty well. I like that. I'll obviously need to clean it up a little bit, and I'll be priming it off camera. And then next Thursday we can come back and we can. I'm trying to melt the portholes down. We can plan on painting them a little bit. Cool, Tanner Cast. I see you've been doing resin casting. Cool. Yep. I kind of enjoy this. I like in the game sessions, I like the heft of the metal miniatures. Honestly, when we're doing our Book of War wargaming, I like it just feels like you're doing a thing. It feels like as you're pushing a force forward, or for role playing here, moving something. It feels like something's like there's actual physical thing in the world moving around, and I do kind of like the heft of them. It is, and I gotta admit, the lead is soft. You can adjust things a little bit after the fact. Like in a prior episode, I was complaining that my Yazirian miniatures were leaning way too far forward, so I could take a hairdryer, warm them up a little bit, adjust them, and now they stand up straight. So there are, it's hard to recommend that people start having lead metal around their house, but it is a nice, and honestly, it is a nice material if you can just be safe about using it. So again, we try to be mindful about that, and as far as I can tell, I haven't had a problem. Yeah, right. Oh, you mainly cast terrain. Cool. Nice. So I'm going to turn the burner off. And the other thing is we succeeded at dealing with a giant ingot. That's the part that we weren't expecting, certainly. So our audible call on what to do with that and kind of improvise on the fly, I'm really happy that worked. So I'm going to turn the burner off here. We did succeed once again at making some miniatures and starting with some clean metal. That's actually really delightful, having the clean, shiny metal available. So that's nice, and also avoided hideously injuring ourselves. I'll just shut that up. And isn't that the real treasure? So again, if you are new to the channel, possibly here at Wandering DMs, don't forget that our patrons support the shows that we do here, and we couldn't possibly do this without their support. So if you'd like to join them, please go to patreon.com/wanderingdms. We would love for you to join us even at the $1 level, and you would get access to our private Discord server where we have conversations happening all the time about miniatures and terrain and role-playing and wargaming and old school stuff and new school stuff. A lot of D&D, is certainly our primary intent, but we also do science fiction, horror, and stuff like that. And people come in, they're DMs, and they have issues with their games, and they're asking for advice. And our patrons are just the smartest, most tasteful people on the planet. So we would love for you to join us there and participate in the conversations that we have all the time. We will. My camera just. my camera just ran out of juice right that second. So just so we can look at something else, I'm going to flip over to here. So next time we're going to be looking to do some painting, and maybe we'll make our space adventures look like this, or possibly something a little bit different. We're going to find out next time. And don't forget that we will be back Sunday. I'll be back with my co-host Paul for more of the Wandering DMs D&D chat show. That'll be Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, as always, so I'll be looking forward to that. But hopefully you can come back next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern as I do this Dan's Old Time Minis show. Thank you so much for hanging out here live Thursday, and some advice, and looking over my shoulder to make sure that everything that I'm doing is a little bit safer than I would otherwise. And I would love to see you back next week. Thanks so much for hanging out. Stay cool. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time.